You're welcome back. And in this video, I'm going to talk about learning to trust the process. There's no such thing as a good shot, and there's no such thing as a bad shot. There's just the shot. What do I mean by that? So, in our sport, you're told not to count because counting brings emotion. A bad shot can increase emotion of a sort. A good shot can increase an emotion of a sort. All that feeds into self-internal talk. Also, it feeds into blood pressure, heart rate, and everything. As I've mentioned before, this sport is a very, very precise sport. By that I mean my bullseye is a half a millimeter in size. And within that half a millimeter, there are 10 concentric circles. The outside of that half a millimeter is 10.0, and the very center of that half a millimeter is 10.9. And I have to be hitting 10.5 and above to compete at the level that I want to be competing at, which is the Olympic level. Now, to do that, I train so that there is no such thing as a good shot or a bad shot because I'm oblivious to it. There's no before or after, there's just now. I have a process. That's how I actually get into that moment. And I would have done it similarly in project management of any sort, IT management when I was doing that. It's all about the process. If you're going to allow, there's a moment where you analyze and it's not within execution. It's before and it's after, but never during. Whether it's a project, whether it's a shot, I don't analyze. I don't analyze while I'm in that process. The process has to be executed. If you're going to analyze within the process, you're adjusting it and adjusting it. Now it's not a process. Now it's like an if then else statement or a while, well, it's a while do anyway in programming terms. It's an if then else. If I do this, then that. If I do this, then that. And that's all you're doing. You're not following a structured process. So you can't measure the metric, whatever the output is. It's something I use in shooting. I have a shot process. Every shooter at the level I'm at has a shot process, and that's a certain execution of steps. And nowhere in there do I allow thinking about what happens outside the process. And I train quite hard on that, and I actually think it's one of my strengths. Um, you can see some people crumble in the moment, and I think it's because the external got internal. So what was going on outside them at the time got inside into their process, and that would be a massive, massive change. But it'd be a problem, more than a problem, to be honest. People say trust the process, trust in the process. I've heard trust it, train it, then trust it. That's that's a phrase I've heard thrown around loosely. Um, but I'm not sure everybody knows what the process really means. You see, in the short process, there's defined sequences with defined steps. When you execute those steps at a standard, you get an output. You can measure that output. From that, you can actually go, that process worked well, or you go, that quality in that area of the process. No different than any project, by the way. The quality within that step within the process, was it at the level it needs to be to deliver the number? And that's probably why this sport is so aligned to me. I think that way anyway. That's actually, I think, one of the key things is if it's aligned with you, it's not a hell of a lot of work to do this, think this way, or view things this way. And if it is, it's not something that people are ever really going to grasp. And that can be why you go, because to explain to you what actually happens, I can see my heart beating in the foresight around the bullseye. I can actually see it. So now, what's going to happen if I'm delighted with a shot? So I get a 10.9. My heart can start rising, the adrenaline can start rising. Now where am I? So I don't allow that happen. To me, by the way, the number is largely irrelevant. It's a data point, is what I mean, rather than while 10.9 people get excited about it. 10.9 on its own is no use. I need another 10.9. So what I'm looking at is the quality of the process. So I actually sit in there and I'm executing the steps. There is nothing before, there is nothing after, there is just what I have, and I trust it. And when I execute it often enough, the belief comes from the output. And I think that's key. You trust the process to deliver You have to test that process, by the way. Just a process doesn't help you. And by the way, it needs to be very quantifiable. I do know some people who have processes that are literally like flags waving in the wind. For me, the processes I build, similar to coding, by the way, and that's why I like coding. Coding has processes within the code. It does this, you take a number, you take another number, you add them. The output is what it should be. The number can't change. The computer won't change them. And that's the way I basically deal with my process. I There's an input and there's an output. And I'm never surprised with the output when the input is really known, and I do mean really known. By that I mean you can BS everybody except yourself. You can tell everyone I don't know what happened there, but you know what happened. So it could be too much of a shoulder tension, could be too much pistol. The pistol grip might have been gripped too tight. You might not actually had the sight alignment you thought you had, but you'll know. No problem. Fix it for the next shot. The next shot's the best opportunity for perfection again. So I wouldn't let that beat you up. But similarly in project management, you know why it went wrong. You can fix it so the next time that process runs, that step is not falling over. That's key. It's about learning, it's about development. I think too many people are focused on the outcome. And here's a problem too, by the way. And so if the outcome is that the clock tells the time correctly, even when it's broken, it's right twice a day. Think about that one now. So you'll see someone get a 10.9 in shooting. Did they mean it is the thing? And so for example, if you've been hitting 10.1s, 10.2s, 10.9, it's a natural reaction, by the way, an internal one to go, oh, finally I'm in there. I'm in the zone. And actually the next shot's a 10.1, a 10.2. That's the zone, by the way, the 10.1 to 10.2 is not the 9. And sometimes success, nothing as bad as succeeding in a project while you know that the process failed and literally it was a Hail Mary to get it over the line. And by the way, nothing wrong with a Hail Mary every now and again, but the process has to carry it, not actually be dependent on it. Um, that would happen quite a bit in shooting. You'll see people and they'll get some good shots and suddenly they believe that that's oh yeah, well, no, I deserve that one. I deserve that one. And they could do, by the way. But the question is, what was it they did to bring that about? And that comes down to their process. And if they don't have one, then that was just, I would call it luck, because what did they say? A goal without a plan is just a wish. Well, a shot without a plan is just luck. A good shot. Um, the same mechanism, whether you're on a project, there's deadlines with projects, the same thing with deadlines with each shot. The process I have, I have a little system, I call it 0.0s operating system. The outcome is I'm looking for a 10.9. I've developed a process that delivers a 10.9. I execute it, but I don't allow any noise in there. That means there's nothing before the shot and nothing after the shot. There's just the shot I'm in. And then when I'm finished the process, I analyze it based on the outcome. And I'm never annoyed or never elated, to be honest, because whatever I did in that process gave me the output. When I pull that trigger I have no control over what happens when that leaves the rifle. All I do know is the rifle's always pointing wherever that pellet lands or that bullet lands. It's literally like code. The code doesn't lie. Code didn't suddenly go, oh, you know what, I'm going to multiply two numbers instead of subtracting them. Doesn't happen. So similarly, I view the shooting process like that. And also projects. No project I've ever been involved in collapsed because suddenly the process failed. I would say the process wasn't actually, how would we put this? It's not actually designed in the first place to be robust enough for things. Um, and then it gets changed in the middle, and then people still expect the same outcome. Can't. So the principle I'm looking to leave you with, process isn't, it's not entitled to deliver an outcome. It delivers exactly what it's built to deliver. If I get a 10.9, it's because I've executed my process to a 10.9 standard. But there are a lot of steps in that process that aren't visible, by the way, to anybody watching us online or even sitting behind me. Coach won't know. Coach will not even know what's going. Or they might spot something. There are certain biggies that you'd spot. For example, if the rifle's not pointing at the target, you'd be able to spot that from a mile away. Um, if the butt plate wasn't in the right place, that's an obvious enough one too if it's far enough away. But the coach literally has to go and he's executing the process, and I'll know. Similarly, if it's a 10.9, I know the process steps that took it to get in there, and I can repeat that. In projects, the outcome never surprised me. Again, the process carried it. So there is no big secret in it. If the process was never actually tested to see can it carry it, you can't be surprised when it doesn't. And it's more luck than anything else. And definitely in the sport I'm in, luck wouldn't actually help you a hell of a lot. And me as a person, I don't spend a lot of time looking for luck. If it wanders by, fine, but the projects were always going to be delivered anyway. Never give up on the process, or you have to give up on the outcome. It's as simple as that, or in my mind, it's as simple as that. Um, the things, by the way, that I think there are three things probably that are principles to my shooting. One is ownership. I own every aspect of this shot, every shot. No one else owns responsibility for that. I don't look to anyone else for inspiration on that shot or support there is no one, there's just me. I own it. Whether it's a good one or a bad one, I own it. The second one is you have to quality check. If you don't have checks in place, how do you know you've executed the process at a standard? This is not just shooting, this is projects. I've owned every project. I've owned my part in every project. Unfortunately, I've owned other people's parts in my project as well at times. However, ownership, next quality check. Check the process. If it has holes, it doesn't stand up under pressure. It could work when there's no pressure. As soon as the pressure comes on, then bang, it falls apart. And in my case, there's no such thing as a good shot, and there's no such thing as a bad shot. I don't carry the last one into the next one. I don't think ahead. Judging a shot before it happens, I mean, why would you want to do that? Also, if anyone has played golf, um, if you ever thought you were going in the trees on the left, you did. And if you had thought you were going in the trees on the right, you did. And if you thought you were going into the water, you were never disappointed there either. So I don't allow good shots or I don't allow bad shots into my head while I'm in the shot. There's only the shot. And actually, for me, the shot has happened. I can't judge it. It's all the steps before the shot. If you think about it, for me, the shot is from the beginning to the end of all my steps. It's not just the bang. And if it's the bang, I have no control over it anyway. It's gone. But I do have control over the quality that went into the bang. Um, I've seen one of my competitions, the stand. I use a stand, a spring stand, and it collapsed on me, but it didn't collapse noticeably. By that I mean it was dropping off. So I started at 10.6s, 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 then started to drop 10.4, then 10, then 9. And I was going, what is going on here? Because the process hadn't changed. And when I realized that the stand had actually dropped on me. No, not noticeably, by the way. When you talk about dropping from a 10.6 to an 8 even, you're talking about a millimeter or millimeter and maybe 2 millimeters. That's not something that it's a catastrophe and there's noise around it. It's actually something that can happen really easy. Um, the thing in the middle of it was my hold was grand the whole way, and once I realized what it was, I fixed the problem and moved back into it. But the process, now I had another element to the process, which was make sure the stand wasn't going to collapse on me. But the whole thing is, I knew that the process that I had delivered the outcome, because once I got the stand back solid again, my numbers came back up to where they should be. So if you have a strong enough process, that's probably, I suppose, the takeaway. If your process is strong enough, it's not questionable when things go wrong. Something else has happened. But also, once you rectify that problem, your process comes back online and there should be no questions around it. Don't worry about what happened in the last project, and don't worry about what happens in the next project, because you only have to worry about what's happening in this project. Thank you.